Hey there, Knicks fans. The NBA season does not let an injury rule out your bet. Other sportsbook let injuries box you out, but Fanatics Sportsbook's fair play protects all bets from first half injury. So if your player goes out with an injury, Fanatics keeps your bet on the court. Make the switch and get more ways to win with Fanatics Sportsbook. Winning, it's different here. Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Weekly Recap, where we get to recap a perfect week that I was too much of a chicken shit to pick a perfect week. I remembered this, or I was told this last night. Jeremy Cohen, hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, John. Doing great. You know, it was a winning week in more ways than one for me. And that's what I'm thankful for. Coming off of a great Thanksgiving and a good holiday, I'm thankful for the W's, all of them,
all three of them, which you picked. You picked 3 W's,
and I got a fourth. Buy 3, get the fourth free.
It's Black Friday special or Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday, yep.
Cyber Monday. That's one or the other. That's great. Hey, listen, we're a little giddy today, but hell, why not? I kind of want to just like get right into it because this so Brunson, congratulations, shout out all the accolades to Jalen Brunson, won his 7th Eastern Conference Player of the Week award today for his achievements. And I bring that up at the top of the show. One, to congratulate him. I tweeted it out before. He's now 1 behind Melo for second place all time. Patrick Ewing is still first with 12, although should we like double that number? Because he was getting those awards back when the NBA only awarded 1 player of the week per week, as opposed to like 2, 1 for East, 1 for West. I don't know. Could debate that later. But they awarded it in part because the Knicks had a perfect week. And he was awesome, obviously. But like they tend to award those who lead their teams to winning. And I saw it and I was like, yeah, the Knicks did have a 4-0 week. That's pretty good. And that kind of snuck up on me. And the month that we just had, 11-3, and it feels like the sky was falling half a dozen times, and yet 11-3. All of this kind of snuck up on me.
Yeah, you said it. 11-3 in the month of November. There was one week where it felt like, not as much fun as it could be, certainly. Yeah. And things turned out perfectly fine. In fact, I'd argue they worked out very well. That's a great opportunity. And if I were to tell you a week ago, right, it was a week ago where there was some stress lingering in general,
lamenting things.
Yeah. This team's in second place in the East, and Detroit, the winning streak's over. They've stumbled a little bit. We'll see how sustainable they are. As far as I'm concerned, the Knicks are still the team to beat in this conference. And I feel very good about where they're at and how they're doing things and how they're progressing even without OG Anunoby. Other players have stepped up, and that's really important to the next man up philosophy. When I think T. Lou was talking about this, where he was like, yeah, it's really tough when he's talking about Kawhi, when the next man up after the player making $50 million is making a significant percentage decrease from that. And the Knicks, fortunately, it doesn't really seem to matter to them. They've just done a fantastic job of putting the right pieces in place, even when you lose other guys to injury. And it was tough when you come off of a week that just felt disappointing, yet still hopeful. Like I didn't feel cynical after last week. I just felt like, some things to clean up. Absolutely. But you also lost Landry Shamet. Hopefully some better news on that front as well. So all in all, if we're going by weeks and we're taking it week by week, which we in fact do, this is a great one.
I have a couple things that come to mind. The first of which is our conversation from maybe 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about like not what matters, but like, you know, they already beat the Cavs. Like what, you know, the Celtics aren't the Celtics anymore. Like what are we going to have a whole season where we have 5 games that we care about, you know, 5 measuring stick games or 6 measuring stick games, whatever it is. And sure enough, then Orlando comes to town and it's, you know, we now have their kind of, I don't want to say Orlando specifically, but like that outline of a team that's big and physical and can kind of push the Knicks around and give the Knicks and specifically Karl-Anthony Towns like specific issues. You know, they're the new version of that. And of the Knicks' 3 losses this month, 2 have come to that Magic team. And you could say that there's a temptation, like, yeah, 11-3, but like they lost, you know, 2 of the only games that matter, they lost. And yet I have a tough time doing that when I look around the rest of the league. And yeah, sure, I guess we could hold ourselves, the Knicks, meaning because, you know, that's the team we talk about, to like, you know, the same standard as like the Thunder and the Rockets. But like, I don't know. I'm comfortable holding like I'm comfortable holding the Knicks to like the standard that I think is appropriate for the Knicks. They are not the Thunder, and I don't think anyone's saying they're the Thunder right now. Even the Rockets, number 2 offense, number 2 defense, I don't think we're in that class right now. But there are 28 other teams in the league, or 27 if you discount the Knicks, and like you look at any given night in the NBA, and you'll look up and you could see Denver losing to, you know, Sacramento, and a Spurs team missing Victor Wembanyama and like Stephen Castle. You could look at Cleveland, who was supposed to win the East, you know, by a few games this year, and they can't seem to get out of their own way at the moment. And it could go like through the all the different teams that came into the season. I mean, Minnesota, my God, yeah, they're 12-8, which is fine. They beat their first team with a winning record over the weekend, you know. So like my point in going through that is just to say that like every team in like the Knicks weight class has had like their own respective issues, and for the Knicks to like have a week where they took care of business against the Bucks team with Giannis, and then beat a Raptors team that, yes, so they were coming off the second half back-to-back, didn't have RJ Barrett. RJ's been great for them, the whole thing. But like, I don't know. I've said this before earlier this year. I'm not going to feel bad about feeling good about this team this week.
Nor should you. I'd say Cleveland is a great example. This is financially their peak year. They're in the second apron. Usually when you're above the second apron, that you're saying financially, this is our best opportunity. Doesn't mean you can't win in future years, but you're saying this is the year we try to go all in. And they're currently in December in the play-in. And there's plenty of time for them to get out of the play-in territory and be the team that many people expect. But if the roles were reversed, if we were a Cavaliers podcast, or if the Knicks were in that spot in the second, it would be disastrous, at least in the moment. And we don't have to worry about that, which is great. The Knicks don't play a team that's really in their weight class until probably February 1st, which is when they play the Lakers, which it's crazy to me that a second. Well, I'll say this. It depends, of course, on the play-in tournament, and I'll circle back to that in a moment.
I was going to say, there's a game in January, early January, that I know the other team has circled on their calendar, the Detroit game.
Sure. Perhaps as I was scanning, I overlooked it. But even still, we'll see.
They have a great disrespect team. To the
It wasn't intentional. You know, maybe it could just be that I'm very accustomed to the Knicks beating the Pistons several times in a row and in the playoffs. No, it's true. I'm just saying candidly, that's my bias.
You are accustomed to
the Knicks beat the Pistons so many consecutive times, and then they lost a few games last year, and then they beat them in the playoffs. So in my mind, they are not a formidable foe, but they are ahead of the Knicks in the standings, and they deserve that respect. So you're right. Outside of that game, February 1st against the Lakers, which, by the way, kind of crazy that the 1 year mark of the Luka Doncic trade was also, I think that game was January 31st for the Knicks at the and the Lakers in MSG. So
this is now the 3rd year in a row where they have played the Lakers in like a marquee weekend game, like right around like January 31st, February 1st, something around there.
It's got to be the Grammys, right? Because they need the Staples Center, I would imagine.
Probably has something to do with it. They also always backload the Lakers like marquee games to when there's no more football. So
right. But I agree. It shouldn't feel bad about feeling good. And maybe you wrote about this and I missed it. I haven't seen this where I've scanned. But the NBA Cup, you don't have to care about the NBA Cup if you don't want to, for those of you out there. But something that stood out to me, so the Knicks have lost to Orlando twice, and they only play them one more time. They've already lost to Miami twice. So a tiebreaker is very hard for the Knicks to have with head-to-head. If the Knicks are to play Orlando and beat them, that's a regular season game, which means that they could actually potentially erase the deficit for a head-to-head matchup if the two teams were to be tied at the end of the year, and then Orlando no longer holds the tiebreaker. So, I mean, right? Doesn't
hold on. So wait, they've played the Knicks so far have played. This is where my small brain holds us back as a show, and I do apologize for that. The Knicks have played Orlando twice, and they've lost to Orlando twice.
Correct.
They play Orlando again at the end of this week, and then they
will. They might. I'm sorry. Yes.
No, they definitely do.
Yes.
And actually, regardless of whether they win or lose in the first play-in game, they have a 50-50 shot of playing Orlando again.
Correct.
in the play-in. I did the same thing.
I just did it too. Yep.
In the NBA Cup game. Yes, they have a 50-50 shot of playing Orlando again. And then that's it for the rest of the year for those two teams. Okay.
So if they play Orlando and beat Orlando, the head-to-head tiebreaker is no longer in Orlando's court.
If they win both the next game and then the potential fourth game. Yes,
okay. Exactly. And with Miami, they play them one more time. They've lost 2. They've won 1. If they're to play Miami and they win both the play-in, oh my God, the NBA Cup game and the regular season game, they would then have a 3-2 edge over Miami in that case. So yes, we could talk about how there's not a lot of competition until 2026, February onwards, of course, that Pistons game, but they will have to play one of Miami or Orlando as well, which will be a good litmus test. I know there are some fans out there who might say, well, the disadvantage of winning getting into the at least quarterfinal stage of the NBA Cup is that you have to play a good team. Good. Perfect. Like, play the good teams. If you beat them, you've won. If you've lost, you've learned something. This team, to me, is still an experimentation, and they're winning games through experimenting. And that's exactly what you want. When they are experimenting and losing, the mindset is potentially, why are you experimenting? Because it's costing you games. But, and this was, I believe, a Karl-Anthony Towns, I'm paraphrasing what he said, where he felt he wasn't on the same page. Really, he was projecting a little bit. He said the team as a whole. It sounded like, he didn't say me, but Josh Hart said this was, I believe, last night. The other day.
Oh, I didn't catch any cat quotes from last night, so this was news to me.
I believe Josh Hart was saying, we're gelling, we're stepping up, we're really starting to understand the offense. And Cat said,
push back on that a little bit.
He was like, oh, we're still a work in progress, getting there. And so it showed one player is thriving and the other is surviving. And maybe everyone comes together and there's time for that, but we're still in that experimentation phase. And so 14 games, you win 11 of them in the month of November. Feels pretty good, and you still don't feel like there's solid ground, but they're working towards it.
That actually makes me think of the other, like, where the team is right now. I personally, and I was glass half empty most of last year, I don't feel like I ever had I did not ever feel a sense of security, in the sense that I was like, bring on whoever. If the Knicks play their game, they're going to win, because I don't think I ever had a secure sense of what their game was. Like, what were the Knicks last year? What were they about? And this year, well, like, I don't know that I'd be able to sit down and write you an elevator pitch on, like, what are the 2025-26 Knicks, because I think I would probably be meandering about, as I want to do. But it's like, I definitely know it when I see it, and we're seeing it more now. And I think James Edwards III wrote a really nice article today about how they're playing well. It seems like they are coming together defensively in a way that is very real, and I want to get back to that. Maybe we'll actually get back to that when we talk about when we give out game balls. But, like, there is something here that does feel very real. It does feel very sustainable, and I swear I was not intending on doing this with you, but we have to give a kudos to the front office because you brought up the Clippers before. You want to talk about the antithesis of the Knicks. If you look at the Clippers' two best players, James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, I understand one of those guys has missed about half the games this season. Those two guys are playing like, forget all-stars. They're playing like at an all-NBA level. Kawhi, I had no idea, like Kawhi, between efficiency, between like on-offs for Kawhi, like they're outstanding. He's doing everything that he's supposed to be doing in the games that he's played. James Harden has been one of the 10, 15 best players in the league. And it doesn't fucking matter because they have built a team on a house of cards and they put that house of cards on quicksand. And you look at this Knicks team, and I kind of said this last night, and actually a super chatter brought it up, but like Jalen Brunson has been very good. He's playing at obviously one player of the week, has been playing at an all NBA level. He didn't play great last night. He certainly didn't make shots. He was 6 of 19. Karl-Anthony Towns is, I'm curious if you disagree. I don't think he's playing at an all-star level right now.
No, I see some tweets about penciling him for the All-Star game, and I'm thinking, I think Mikal Bridges is a better case, to be honest. He's not going to get it, but like that's how poorly Cat is compared to what peak Cat looks like. And putting him in as like hey, he's on the All-Star team. He's struggling. He is not. But he still wound up being the leading scorer last night, even on a night when it wasn't his best night.
And so just to contrast them, so with the Clippers, it just shows the sort of team that Leon Rose and his front office have built, where you can have and to get a coach that features and maximizes all of the players on the roster, as opposed to just the top guys. Now, we need to wait. Like ultimately, for this team to do anything, Karl-Anthony Towns is going to need to be good, and we have not yet seen evidence that he can be good under this coach. Even though I agree with all of the thoughts, especially on this channel, like Benji has said, I think more than anyone, Karl-Anthony Towns should have the best offensive season of his career in the system, being featured in the way that he is. It just hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen. I have no doubt that it's going to happen. My point is, like, they're not even at what you would figure their peak level is going to be. So to have just finished an 11-3 month, 4-0 week, like, again, I think we could. It's okay to make a bigger deal of this, other than just like, they're beating the teams that they're supposed to beat, because I think it's a little bit more than that.
I agree. The Clippers, that Norman Powell trade, it's really frustrating because.
What was your reaction when you saw that in the moment? I don't know if did we talk about it when it happened?
I don't think so. I mean,
I don't think we did either. I would remember that.
Norman Powell, of course, one of Stan Van Gundy's all-stars. So
yes,
he's a great player. He had a great season. I can understand why, from the Clippers' perspective, they're like, well, we do need to get younger and we need a little bit more length at the forward spot. I've never been the biggest John Collins fan, truthfully. So
he's black licorice for some people.
Yeah, I understand the concept of moving Powell and selling high, but you didn't really sell high because what you got back, rough, and you have leaned into older players who
you sold low.
Right. Well, that's
you unquestionably sold low.
So, and now he's in Miami, which is obviously a foe of the Knicks. So he's in this conference. Could make the All-Star team, playing pretty well. And, so you've got Bradley Beal already out for the season. You have Brook Lopez, who is a shell of himself. You're relying on players in their mid to late 30s, or in some case, early 30s. It's not going to go super well. You want players who are really more in their late 20s, early 30s at most. And that's where your prime is, which is why for the Knicks, they've built a team that is comprised of guys who were peaking all at around the same time or on the come up, which is great. And even someone like Jordan Clarkson, who
I was about to say,
he's 30, he's the oldest player on the team, 33, and yet he is finding, I don't want to say a fountain of youth, but it just goes to show, we've talked about this a little bit before, where when you look at bad teams and you look at players on bad teams and a lot of their stats might look poor, it could be so contextual. The context of where they are, because if you were to look at Jordan Clarkson a year ago, when he came to New York when the Jazz were playing. Mike Breen, it sounded like he was his least favorite player ever. Like, that's the thing. It was, you're watching this game, and I don't expect a lot of Knicks fans to watch Jazz games. I certainly didn't. But it's like Jordan Clarkson comes to MSG once a year, and he's chucking the ball like crazy. He's not playing the game that is going to help be conducive to winning. Yeah. And then he comes here, and suddenly things are a lot rosier because he's bought into a system that is catering to a lot of his skills. And perhaps it's not going to be the best when we're in the spring. Maybe he's going to come up with opportunities that are just, he can't get a stop defensively. He gets played off the court. That's later. We don't have to worry about that right now because they're 82 games. You got to get through all of them. But what he's doing, fantastic. But the Knicks aren't relying on players around his age to get them to where they are. And that youth, especially stepping up when someone like OG Anunoby or Landry Shamet is injured, has been super important.
I think in terms of like bigger picture, biggest development from this week or biggest takeaway from this week, I'm going to give you just with the Knicks, because we could go around the league and talk about things that are going on outside of the Knicks that are big developments where they're concerned. But let's keep it on the roster. I'm going to give you 3. I'm going to give you Mitchell Robinson having what I thought was his best game in quite some time last night and looking, I don't know if spry is the right word, but like looking more like Mitch. That's number one.
Rejuvenated.
Oh, good word. I like that.
Thank you.
Rejuvenated. Maybe he just needed some turkey or leftovers because he played a game after they actually.
Yeah, and in Milwaukee or against Milwaukee, he looked pretty rejuvenated as well. So he didn't have the itis. He was in good spirits. Maybe. Well, he said he ate. I think he's changed his diet. I think he's.
Has he?
I think he's organic, eating everything organic now.
No, Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah, he talked about he's got a farm.
I know he has a farm. Yeah,
he grows his own food. So,
that's good for him.
You know, fuel your body, that kind of thing.
My wife is trying to have us go all organic. She tried to. Sorry, quick aside. She's like, she's fine, but she had like a little bit of a health scare like a month ago, and she's like, "That's it. We're all organic. No more of this processed shit. If I can't identify an ingredient, we're not buying it." So she went to Whole Foods and bought some like fancy organic cereal. Tried to give it to the kids. They were like, "Go peddle this shit somewhere else. It's not happening here." That lasted one box. Anyway, how did we get to? Oh yeah, Mitch. So Mitch and his organic diet looking rejuvenated. Number 2, Tyler Kolek becoming an honest to goodness like full-fledged member of the rotation and looking the part. And number 3, I mean, I don't know how else we do this. Well, he'll come up, I would imagine, in game ball. But Josh Hart, I mean, shit. I had a comment in to the newsletter today, like, not even facetiously, but like, is Josh Hart the likeliest Knick to be the second All-Star this year? And I'm like, I mean, I don't think he is, but can I definitively say no? So of those 3, give me which one do you want to go with?
Let's go with Kolek. You know, because Josh Hart will get his flowers. That's why.
No, it might be it might be the right answer. Keep going.
And Mitch, you know, he had a rough go for a bit, and the treatment plan seems to be kicking into high gear a little bit more. But Kolek he had a good week. You know, offensively last night, I thought he did struggle to get things going a bit, but the defensive instinct was what stood out to me the most, especially against the Bucks, just getting into passing lanes. And even last night, I mean, came with like 2 steals in 2 minutes of action.
I was about to say, I think it was consecutive possessions. Yeah, they both seemed really big in the moment because Toronto was like trying to make one big push and it just wasn't happening.
The way that Kolek is playing is making me go from the Knicks need a backup point guard to the Knicks need a backup point guard ? And like without getting into the minutia of who that is, what that looks, all that. It's just
punctuation matters, folks.
It does. It's wondering if this is the player who can just soak up the minutes that you need. Because we know that in the past, in limited sample size, and by past, I mean last year, he was very good at finding guys in the corners. And if he can continue to drive and just create offense that way, you're looking at someone that is passable. And obviously the Knicks want more than passable. But for right now, as he's learning and as he's growing, and this is why I'm glad he's getting the experience that he's getting. We don't have to go over last year. Obviously, I stated my case on that. But for this year, it's nice to see him developing. And when you see that type of progression, a couple weeks ago, a lot of the frustration was about the 2024 draft class.
Yeah.
If you have one player of that tranche pop and at least be a rotation piece, the entire narrative of that year gets adjusted.
Totally.
Because, okay, cool. We don't have to try to figure out is the 57th pick or 58th pick, whatever, I think 59th pick, whatever the McCullough Jr. and
Huckporty was 50. McCullough was 56. Huckporty was 58, right, yeah. I think. Yeah.
They were in that range, yes. But you don't expect those players to be rotation pieces.
No.
They seldom are. So then you move it up. Dade, of course, got drafted very early. He took the salary. That was 80%. So it's really the Knicks then trading down and still getting Kolek, when we had even talked about leading into the draft that we both thought Kolek would be a guy they wanted, and they wound up getting him. And you hope in seasons like this where, great, just give him limited minutes, even with Jalen Brunson, even if it's not working. And it's not working exactly, but even if you're finding the opportunities to experiment, and this goes back to the Mike Brown portion, keep throwing things out there, keep seeing what sticks and what doesn't. Because I was looking just today for fun at Karl-Anthony Towns and Guerschon Yabusele possessions and like what that looked like. Just because I was mildly curious. I really had I had a lot of downtime today, so I was like, great, let's plug it in. And the most played lineup had so few possessions. Like I'd have to
with Cat and Yabu together.
Correct, but it was just so. It was so funny to see it because it was just like they're barely playing. Here was 93rd percentile in 120 possessions when Cat and Yabu are on the floor together. But the most played unit of that group has had 17 possessions. So it's a small sample size, and they're all smaller groups that have played together. So what does it really tell us? Not a ton. Maybe it's worth seeing a little bit more, but it's something. It's something to at least keep experimenting on and seeing where it works. And that was the main thing with last year and why a change was part of the welcome for this year.
I'm happy you brought up Yabu, because I was just going to say, if you're going to be a negative, or you're going to be negative about the Knicks so far this year, Yabu's probably one of the first things you're going to bring up. And yet he's been better of late. I think assuming Mitch is going to be, and again, it's not safe to assume, which we're going to get back to this concept of when do you assume good health in a moment. But assuming Mitch can be Mitch when it counts, and just you're hoping for every team is hoping for good health, right? Knicks are no different, but you're assuming good health. The Knicks have as rock solid a top 7 as any team in the league outside of Oklahoma City. Although Houston probably deserves to be certainly in that conversation. They're pretty solid too. But like top 3, right? Top 3, top 7. Top 3, top 7. And so after that, if you could go into like April with even one of Kolek, Clarkson, Yabusele, or whom I forget, Shamet. I forget anybody?
Well, this is also assuming the Knicks don't make a single move.
I was about to say, or forget it. I shouldn't have said April. If you're going into February, and even one of those 4, and we assume Shamet will, if the rehab goes well, he'll be back on the court at some point during January, I would hope, but we'll see. Who knows? If even one of those guys can make you feel like, all right, we feel like we have a playoff rotation player here. Again, one of those 4, and then that could be your 8th guy. And I say that knowing Shamet had already shown us that, and then he got hurt, so we now have to wait and see. I think you're feeling pretty good about the depth, and then it comes down to, all right, should we reinforce this with some sort of either a trade and then a subsequent, like a trade for a player or a trade to open up room, and then you get you sign a buyout guy. But yeah,
I was thinking about it today, specifically with someone like Yabu, where he's getting paid just over $5 million. And what I was just thinking out loud is, if you're a fan, what exactly are you expecting from Yabu? And I don't say that as in there are no expectations. There are baseline expectations. Hit shots, swing it, don't be a defensive black hole. But the point being, okay, if you've got, as you just mentioned, the Knicks right now have a very strong top 7.
Yeah.
So who's the 8th? Are we saying it's Clarkson? Are we saying it would have been Shamet?
I mean, it was Shamet was certainly in the top 8.
So, but now we're saying, okay, so the 9th guy at really, if we're getting into that conversation, like, if Yabu is the 9th guy, are we like, what are the expectations for the 9th guy to really be? And again, I'm not saying there are no expectations. There are.
Yeah.
I just think it's a little bit more measured. He made some nice money. It hasn't hurt the Knicks. You could use it as tradable salary. You could hang on to him and keep having him grow, progressing. I think I'd be curious, and this is not something I have devoted the time to looking into because it only occurred to me really on this podcast. How long did it take the bigs in Sacramento to adjust to Mike Brown? Because what if it's a different process for guards and wings and forwards than it is maybe for bigs? And again, this is something I would need to go back and really look into, but was Sabonis day one ready? I don't follow them closely enough, but when you see Kat and Yabu as the two guys who really the least adapted to the system, and Yabu in shorter spurts turning it around, but Kat has more opportunity, he's just not hitting the open shots. That's where you kind of get further into it of just maybe it takes bigs more time to get acclimated, or maybe it just so happens that these are the two players that are at the bottom of the funnel and they can rise to the top.
I think that's part of it with Yabu. I think the part of it that obviously had people a little bit more distressed was just the eye test of like just not being able to stay in front of anybody. But that's getting a little bit better. And I also think like might it behoove them to simplify his role a bit and less of like all the different things that a center has to do in this offense in particular, and just like go out there and be a wing and space to the corner and like he's made some shots recently, which I think is probably the most encouraging thing. Like ultimately at the end of the day, you want him out there because he can shoot at that size. So look, I haven't really been worried about Yabu. I'm not worried about Yabu now. It's gonna like if they really do get like nothing out of him, I do think it'll be a really significant misstep. I understand it's $5 million, but like you and I both know that was an important salary slot for them in terms of what they had to use. So I do think they need to get something from that, but I'm willing to give it a lot more time for him to get right. And I think we've seen some encouraging signs.
Totally agree. The only caveat I'd say for that is, yes, important salary slot. If you are going to consider trading him, the difference is you couldn't use the tax pyramid level exception as a TPE, or you can't use it via trade. So you had to sign someone and then you can trade them. That's not one way or another of advocating or not to move Yabu right now. It's just you have turned that salary slot into movable salary if you want it. You couldn't have done it any other way. So that's a start, and that's good. But they also didn't just spend it for the sake of spending it. They spent it on a player who should fit, theoretically does. And it's why I'm not worried about any rotation player in the Knicks, excluding health. They all, from how they play and their talent alone, complement each other very well. So I was at DEFCON 4 last week. It's like stabilizing back to DEFCON 5.
We're 5.
But like, 5. It's still okay. Sigh of relief. Good week. What's next? What's in store? And 4 games this upcoming week.
Speaking of what's in store, before we get to game bowls, we have a couple super chats from your good buddy Robert. But I did want to, because this has been out there, so we are a weekly recap, and it would be disingenuous for us to completely ignore something that is part of the conversation. So I'm going to put up a question that we got from a fellow whose name you're very familiar with because it's your name. Jeremy asks us, do all the AD rumors coinciding with Cat's usage dropping pique your interest a bit? To me, AD, a healthy one, of course, has always been a very natural compliment to JB, and I think the Knicks would say the same thing. Thoughts? I have thoughts, but I want to give you the first swing at this.
All I'm going to say, because we talked a little bit about AD beforehand last week, and I don't think we need to broach that topic.
We don't need a deep dive on this
right now.
Yeah,
I don't see the connection between Cat's usage and what folks like us would be tweeting about. So I think it's just, this is a player who is struggling to adapt, and it's been nice. He's been a little bit more freed up by the offense, less constrained, and I think he's maybe going to get a little bit more comfortable as he plays more to his strengths, especially on the post-up side. But I don't foresee Anthony Davis being the reason. It's also if you had to talk about Anthony Davis, there's not one way to acquire him. So I don't think that in Cat, and I'm not a mind reader. I'm not going to be looking at Cat's body language, but I would imagine that what we're talking about with Anthony Davis, what other people are talking about, doesn't have an impact on the guy who just wants to get right and is happy to be on the team that he's wanted to be on, and knows that everyone else is getting ahead of the curve, and it's up to him based on his status as a player, based on the money that he makes, based on how important he is to the offense, to step it up. And I think that's what he cares about the most, but I don't see a connection between the two personally.
Nor do I. I'll say two quick things. Number one, for as much as I talk about in the negative sense, when Cat does like silly shit, I'll be like, look, this is who he's been for 10 years. It'd be silly to expect him to change. It would be even sillier to think that a guy who has been a dominant offensive force for a decade now in the league suddenly forgot how to be that. We know what his issues are on offense, and we know the things that can give him problems, but we also know that there are things that he is just great at that he has not been even good at this season. So all of that stuff is going to turn around. It's just a matter of when, and probably has to do with his comfort level a little bit. That's number one. Number two, and again, maybe I'm just feeling optimistic this week. If the Knicks were, I don't know, we just talked about the Clippers, but they're the team that comes to mind. Like, if the Knicks were like really in dire straits and they were that far away from like, or they needed like so many things to go right for them to have a shot at winning, then maybe you take a risk on a guy who has been as injury prone as Anthony Davis has been. I do not think that they are that far away. I do not think that they need to take that risk on a player that it's like, if he stays healthy, like, yeah, there will be a team out there. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be the Bulls. Maybe it's going to be the Clippers. Maybe it'll be someone else who is going to be like, you know what? I don't really want to take this risk, but what fucking choice do we have? Guess what? The Knicks have a choice, and the choice is to not trade for Anthony Davis. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I will add, though, I think we've gotten to a point where Anthony Davis might be underrated because of how the general perception is right now. Because I would imagine that maybe there aren't a ton of NBA teams that are biting on Anthony Davis.
Underrated as an asset?
Underrated as in there's so much, there's just this cloud of made of glass, don't want to touch him with a 50-foot pole. Like all of that from the fan perspective, that I feel like there is a disconnect compared to front offices. I would be surprised if I would be surprised if the Mavs didn't get something of value for Anthony Davis. No. And I know you're not saying such, but it doesn't mean that it has to be one of the teams that we regard as nearsighted. It could be someone that makes a longer term play. I don't really know, but it's the sort of thing where, to me, it's starting to feel like the first round picks conversation where fans love first round picks. What do you mean you traded all these first round picks?
Yeah.
Well, front offices view first round picks differently than fans do. And I'm starting to feel like there's a similar sentiment because of how Anthony Davis is regarded generally, that I can't help but wonder if fans are extremely low on him right now, and franchises around the league aren't nearly that low. There may be concerns, certainly, but not to the degree that fans are. That's just my observation.
No, it's very fair. It's like you would think that this is similar to the Jimmy Butler situation a year ago or almost a year ago, where like everybody was petrified. Well, if we don't give him the contract he wants, or if, he's going to like blow up our culture and the whole thing. And he ended up going for, frankly, not very much. And it really helped the Warriors. I don't know if I would assume they would do that again, but like Anthony Davis should not be treated in that way. He's better than that. And there was a price that makes sense. Because again, that's why I asked player or asset. As the player, I don't think people are undervaluing him as a player, although maybe they are a little bit.
I think they are.
Maybe they are. You know what?
It doesn't help that Luka was the guy he was traded for.
Well,
and it doesn't help that the Lakers are doing well. But I don't agree with how Nico Harrison carried out that move, and clearly, eventually, it caught up to him. But he's still at his peak, in my opinion, a top 15 player. Of course, it's a question of when he plays. But that's often disregarded because he can be found in street clothes a lot of the time.
It is often disregarded. It shouldn't be disregarded. And I will say again, and I've said it multiple times, I think who would you rather have on this Knicks team, healthy Anthony Davis or healthy Karl-Anthony Towns? I think it's a fascinating conversation, and I think it's worthy of a long conversation. Anthony Davis has the health track record that he has, and he's 2.5 years older than Cat. So for me, that's kind of where the conversation ends for now, with the right to reserve my opinion later. All right, let's do game ball first, and then we'll get to Mr. Cross. Mr. Cross could wait.
I have a suggestion for game ball this week.
Sure,
I recommend that we call it the Jalen Brunson game ball, because I feel like, considering how he won Eastern Conference Player of the Week, using either of really 4 of our options on Jalen Brunson, it just feels like it would mean someone else is undeserving or doesn't. I forget.
We double up.
We double up because there's no detention.
Okay. Well, you go first. So Jalen Brunson not eligible. Who were you giving your first Jalen Brunson game ball to?
I'm giving my Jalen Brunson game ball to one Josh Hart. Okay. So this week, Josh Hart averaged about 17, 12, and 7 with 3 assists. And I mean, this just
more than 3 assists.
No, just this week. I think it was 7 assists, 3 7 assists, 3 steals. This month he shot over 40% from 3 on a nice volume. This is someone where when he's clicking and when he's got the confidence, he is a game-changing player, especially when you consider how he's fighting for rebounds on a consistent basis. Going from the injury to start the preseason and then coming back and looking like a shell of himself and not adapting to the system to now thriving in it. It's wonderful to see as a fan, but of course, just on a human level, he had to deal with a lot. He was struggling. Yep. He looked inward, figured out, how can I change? How can I grow? And now he's doing what he's doing, and he's contributing to winning basketball. So it's not just the physical gifts that he has on the court, but it's the mental agility, the fortitude to be able to look inward, but then get the opportunity. And when he gets that opportunity, to be tremendous for the team. I had a lot of pride watching him this month, and I look to continue watching that. And he is the number 1 candidate for me in terms of being deserving.
It's a great pick. It's the right pick if Brunson's not eligible. I will go with Mikal Bridges. I tweeted out last night he has 64 stocks, so steals plus blocks, which is currently tied for the league lead in the NBA with Scotty Barnes. That number is notable not only because it's the most anybody has in the NBA, but I went up and looked before looking at something for the newsletter. He had the same number of stocks last season on January 20th. It is December 1st.
Give him an extra day. Give him November 30th.
November 30th, yes.
Yeah.
So, and that it has as much to do with Mikal as it does how he is being used defensively and being able to wreak havoc off the ball. I would very much like for that to continue. And it will be very interesting to see. I know we haven't talked a ton this episode about what's going to happen once OG Anunoby comes back. I think we probably have a little bit more time. But I almost feel like, for as much as we could talk about spacing and size, on the boards and whatever else, like keeping Mikal Bridges in the defensive role that he is currently in, I'm starting to think that maybe should be priority number one. Like whatever you want to do with the starting lineup, like just keep him in the role that he has been in, and then go from there. So he'll be my first game ball.
Great choice. Yes, defensively he's been a monster. I think the glass half full is, and he's been able to do all of this without OG Anunoby, and the glass half empty is probably, is it notable that he's doing this without OG Anunoby? Hopefully he can sustain this.
I think he can.
I
absolutely think he can. Yeah,
of course. But it's because it's not like it's taking away per se, but he's excelling in this role. And I would certainly hope that when you bring back OG, and a concern, which I don't think is a huge concern, but just something to take note of, this team is elevating and clicking. And I just hope that OG is able to be seamless fit as the team is elevating, that he too can be mastering the system. And because he could fall behind. It's possible that he's inserted and things are better on paper, of course, but he's missed time. He hasn't been gelling. It's not that he hasn't played with these players before, but it might take him a little bit more time to really get acclimated. I hope it's seamless and right away. We just don't know. But with Bridges in this role right now, it's clear that Mike Brown has been a godsend for him.
There's been no better coach-player marriage in the league this year. I don't even think that's debatable. All right, so now it's not a draft, so it's back to you. Otherwise,
no, you take it. You take it because
you want me to take this one?
I'll give it to you.
If you're gonna give it to me, I will take Deuce. Who
I figured you would.
Like he's shooting 60% from three this week in 4 games, which is pretty outstanding. 6.3 3-point attempts per game, averaging 15 points. It's just crazy because like you just blew all this smoke up Josh Hart's ass, and it's well deserved. Josh Hart's been awesome. And yet, like, if you ask me, put aside like all of the X's and O's considerations, like who do you think should remain the starter when OG comes back? And again, this is me saying this, who I don't know that there's a bigger Josh Hart fan out there. There's a part of me that wants to see Deuce. I don't want to phrase it like get that shot, but I want to see what that looks like moving forward. And I don't necessarily say that thinking that like that is the best Knick 5-man lineup, like Deuce with the other starters. But there's a part of me that thinks maybe that is the way that they should start games, because I look, Hart's been amazing and he's been needed to be amazing because they're down guys. But like, I don't know, man. We'll see. But it's just a fascinating question to me, what Brown decides to do.
I completely agree. Both are deserving. It's really a question of who can excel in the role that they're in and still optimize the rest of the team. The thing where I'm hesitating is I think you could have Deuce starting and he'll excel. And I think you could have Deuce off the bench and he'll excel. And for Josh Hart, I feel like his pride, and I know I just talked about this with the sacrifice, he still has more confidence when he's starting. It doesn't mean bring him back to the bench per se, but if you're getting a fully confident Josh Hart, maybe you lean more towards him. And that's the malleability that Deuce has. I love how he can adapt where he's a starter. He's doing great. He's off the bench. He's doing great. Josh is a little different, but for someone like McBride, his guarded offensive involvement rate, so basically how the Knicks have involved him in guarding teams' offensive players. Basketball Index has him in the 93rd percentile, 37th out of 488 players. That's good for an A rating. He's done a fantastic job. And his perimeter defense, I mean, usually it can be a little bit more up and down. Last year he was quite good in isolation, if I can recall that. But this year the data is still not quite collected by the site. Either way, he is helping Mikal Bridges excel in his own way. So it's like, hey, let me do my job so that you can do your job. No small parts, only small actors. Deuce McBride maybe on the smaller side. He is not a small actor.
It's very interesting. And then there is the spacing thing with, okay, then you're maybe, are you matching too many of Josh Hart's minutes with Mitchell Robinson's minutes? But like, honestly, with the way Josh Hart is shooting the ball right now, I don't even know how much I care about that. And oh, by the way, you're going to grab, 40% of your team's misses when those guys are in the game together, and if you put Jalen Brunson out there too, there's so many different ways Brown could go. And as many have said, it doesn't have to be one decision. Unlike the last coach, Mike Brown's allowed to do different things on different nights.
He is. It can be by feel. And as we've seen now with Mitch coming off the bench, he's pretty much just had Yabu be, if you want to call him the sixth man, he's not the sixth man, but he's been the first sub in the game for some of the past week. So
some of it, yeah,
not all of it, but of note, and that's the flexibility that he can do. So
I don't know. Well, I don't think that's a wrong answer. I don't feel strongly about it. I just, we'll
I agree.
See. All right, the last game ball goes to you.
I'm going to give it to Mike Brown.
I love that. That's great.
He doesn't get many opportunities for praise because we often give it to the players. He truly has just changed the experience, not just for the players, but as a fan. I feel so much lighter watching this team. He has a calming effect, whereas Tibbs, of course, was more guarded in his approach, which, classic crotchety older man. And in this case,
Shots fired.
I'm just saying that was just his temperament. That was, I'm not saying he has to change who he is. I'm just saying that's who he is.
That's Mike Brown. Word you could use to describe Tibbs as crotchety.
I mean, I stand by it.
If the shoe fits.
Mike Brown's certainly a lot looser. You can tell it's with the players too. There's more of an endearing factor. And just as I watch and listen, I feel as though I'm being spoken to earnestly. There's no gatekeeping. And for a front office that prides itself on not speaking, because the less you say, the more you can hide, which is good when you have intellectual property, or you don't want to necessarily tell the world, hey, this is what we're going to do. It's nice at a lower level to have Mike Brown be the ambassador for the team at a higher up level. He's not talking about what's going to happen necessarily. He's giving honest, candid feedback. He's laughing it up, but he's also serious. They were asked about the defense, and he said he's not worried. And it's gotten to the point where the dam hasn't broken open. The defense is getting a little bit better. We talk a lot about advanced stats. Here's a very basic one. 102. That's only one time in these 4 games that the Knicks gave up more than, or really, it was 101 was the peak, other than the Bucks game.
Yeah,
so they gave up 100 against Brooklyn, 101 against Charlotte, 109 against Milwaukee, and 94 against Toronto. I'm still not quite sure why Jakob Poeltl played against Charlotte in the first night of a back-to-back instead of the second night, but that's a decision that's out of my hands, and I'm grateful for it because it led to a Knicks win in part. But the Knicks have been able to, even though it's bad competition against Brooklyn before, yes, Brooklyn scored 98. They've scored 100 this week. So you could look at it and say, well, that's 2 more points. It was also, they didn't know how to contain Michael Porter Jr. at all. And then they figured it out. And then it really was like a Noah Clowney masterclass from 3 when time really didn't matter much anymore. And then they laid it on. So the defense it's coming together a bit more, which is nice. And the optimistic viewpoint is it's coming together, and you still do not have OG Anunoby. There's room for growth there, especially as they become more familiar with everything. And it's been talked about as well. OKC, they let up a lot of threes, and teams hit threes. So it's not like you have to close it off entirely and shut the tap off, but they're finding ways to at least force their opponents into worse threes. And a lot of it's luck. A good portion of it's going to be variance, but you also impact where and who is taking what threes and when and how open they are. So Mike Brown's a huge reason for a lot of that. I'd love to give him the Jalen Brunson game ball for the week.
It's well earned. They are 12th in defense. They're knocking on the door of the top 10 in terms of frequency, which is again the stats we always look at. They're still second from the bottom in terms of the frequency of 3-pointers allowed. 22nd in rim frequency, and they're back to first in fewest amount of short mid-rangers allowed. So again, if you're looking at the paint as a collective whole as opposed to just the restricted area, the Knicks are doing very well at keeping teams out of the zone that they want to keep them out of. If you want to look at just the restricted area, then they're doing less well. But like, I think, and you add in, and I know you've harped on this before, and I want to just highlight it. Yes, second from the bottom in terms of frequency of threes allowed overall. They're 22nd in frequency of corner threes allowed. Mm-hmm. So those are the shots you really don't want to give up. And look, 22nd, is it great? No, it's not great, but it's not second to last. So some encouraging signs if you want to look at them. And here's the other thing. Every other aspect of defense, they're really good at. And the turnovers part of it, generating turnovers, I mean, that's the thing that should get even better once OG gets back, because he's OG Anunoby and he is a demon.
Having the depth also, and again, shout out to Stan Van Gundy on this one. He talked about OKC and how instead, they're very foul prone because they go for the ball. And they're so deep as a team that, okay, someone's in foul trouble. That's fine. Next man up. We can roll it out, and we're still going to be tenacious with trying to get deflections and steals and then score in transition. That's the nice thing about having a deeper team. The Knicks don't have as much depth. But when I see someone like Kolek check in and be aggressive, because if I'm Tyler Kolek, I'm probably going to play maybe 12, 14 minutes, probably with a healthy Jalen Brunson at most. I'm just going to be as aggressive as possible on the defensive end, because if I foul out Jordan Clarkson, it's ridiculous how many times he has just racked up fouls. I love it. I love that he's doing that because it shows that he is getting aggressive. There are times where it can be too much. I'm not talking about like the Karl-Anthony Towns silly fouls that
I was about to say
it's not a one size fits all. Yeah. There are standards here, but on the defensive side, instead of a ticky-tack foul, it's committing to it, getting aggressive, going for the steal, going for the stop. It's been working. We'll see if it continues, but that's it. You just have to be calculated about it. And then if you leave guys open, if you gamble and then it's an advantage, and then you leave guys open in the corners, like an AJ Green type who is dynamite from there. But the Knicks adjusted eventually, and AJ Green went cold. Right. So it's a combination again of strategy and luck.
It's yes, but I want to even move more in the direction of the strategy you're talking about. I would like them to go for broke, maybe even a little bit more. Because and again, I don't know if Stan said this explicitly. I know the conversation you're referencing on the Zach Lowe podcast, but like it's the possession game that matters so much now, because the collective skill level of everybody is so high that if you just give teams bites at the offensive apple, they're going to beat you, more often than not. So you have to just try to take away possessions, which is why the freaking Houston Rockets, who can't hit shots, are the second best offense in the league. But we don't have to talk about that right now. All right. A couple comments from Robert Cross. We love you, Robert. Thank you so much. First comment. Is this show still on the air? Yes. And his comment, here's to you, Mr. Robinson, hashtag 53 wins. Robert will never not be salty at you for trying to trade Mr. Robinson.
It's fine. There's going to come a day where it happens and Robert's going to fall to his knees. He's not even going to get the text from Shams or whomever. It's just going to be, he's just going to know.
He's going to know.
It's going to be telepathic.
I hope Mitchell Robinson never gets traded. I hope he retires as a Knick. That would make me... How do I not know it? I'm sure there has been someone, but I cannot think of a single Nick lifer since like Reed and Bradley and I mean are those the only two? Maybe in the were there any Nick lifers that like retired in the 60s or the 50s or something? I won't. I'm not gonna be mad at myself for not knowing. But like since Reed and Bradley, has there been? Here's the one. Did Phil Jackson ever play for another team? I should know this, and I don't know
it. That's a good question. I can look that up.
I already got it here. I already got it. Yes, he played for the. Oh my God, that's a bad job by me. I've seen him in Nets uniform before. He finished his career with the Nets.
Gotcha. Another Knicks lifer, Chris Smith. So you could add him to the list.
Good, but I won't. Thank you so much for that, Robert. And then second, I think this is directed at you. Mm-hmm. Captain Kickball should look at more useful information in his free time. Hashtag 53 wins. I believe this is him referencing your Gershon stats.
That's fine. He can. The numbers are what they are. I still have confidence that he's going to bounce back. He's going to do just fine. Sometimes it takes guys time to get acclimated. He's progressing. Feels like a steady increase for him, but obviously a paltry 5 or so points a game isn't going to move the needle for a lot of fans, and I totally understand why.
So I want to. Javier Montalvo says in the chat, Herb Williams. Herb Williams, it feels like he was a Nick lifer because he was on the Knicks for so goddamn long. Herb Williams was actually like a borderline all-star player early in his career with the Indiana Pacers. He had what was like a full career before he ever stepped foot into MSG to play a home game for the Knicks. And then he spent the last 7 or 8 years of his career here. So no, Herb Williams is not about. I'm going to go look this up. There has to be someone since Bill freaking Bradley and Willis Reed that's been a Nick lifer. But that'll be a conversation for another day because we got to get out of here. Jeremy Cohen, this was fun as it always is. Anything that I forgot or anything you want to say before we get out of here? Yeah, we didn't do predictions. I was hoping I could skate by without doing it. I'm sure you did. All right. If we must. I actually edited it so we have the correct 4 games. 4 games this week. Boston, that's at Boston. Charlotte, second night of a back-to-back. Utah Friday. Orlando Sunday. I think I know which way you're going to go. I'm going to go 3-1. Of course you are. Yeah, because I don't know which game they might lose, but I guess I'm counting them to lose one of them. Now, 4-0 is open for you once again. You could, unless you're, do you think that the Knicks can't win 8 in a row? Is that what you're saying, Jonathan? Or do you think that they're going to lose? Or will they do it? Can't is not a word in my vocabulary. And I'm going to go 2-2 again. Okay. Because again, if they go 4-0, guess what? 8-game winning streak. That'll be the first time since the 23-24 season they won 9 in a row. And it ended with the aforementioned Lakers game. Safe to say that if the Knicks go 3-1 this week, that's kind of like worst of the best case scenarios because it means you lose and they don't go undefeated. I think they're going to go 3-1. If I had a pick, I would have picked 3-1. I do not think that they will lose twice. I think they will find a way. But that said, the game in Boston is no guarantee because Boston's going to have everybody other than Tatum. Obviously, it looks like they're going to have White. They're going to have Kata. Kata's been awesome for them. Makes a big difference on the court. So that's going to be a tough game. Second night back to back with travel, always tough. Doesn't matter who you're playing. And then Orlando. Which they owe them one. It would be cool to go into that Orlando game riding a 7-game winning streak. I would say that. I will say that. Well, it would if they do. Yeah. All right. Now we're done. Anything else before we get out of here? I think that's all. I think that's all too. All right, everybody. Thank you for checking out another episode of the Knicks Film School Weekly Recap, presented by FANATICS Sportsbook. You can do all the things that people do to support the shows that they enjoy, such as following us on social media at Knicks Film School, SKOOL. You can certainly subscribe on YouTube, turn your alerts on. We have bonus content at Patreon. We're actually, hold on, less than 4 hours left. We're offering a Cyber Monday discount. There is, you know what? I'm going to take the extra second and I will actually find the freaking code. All you got to do is go to Google Knicks Film School Patreon. And then if you're not signed up and you want to sign up, all you got to do is put in the code. And that code, of course, is F3DA. Is that a 0 or an O?
I believe it's a 0.
It's a 0?
I believe so.
Let's go with 0. F3DA0. There it is. That's the code. Or you could just go and check the tweet that I sent out earlier today because it has like a direct. You could just copy and paste it. Anyway, yeah, 30% or 25% off if you want to join Patreon, and then leave a rating, leave a review, the whole thing.
So it is a 0, just for whatever it's worth. There's a site because there's a site where you can do, is it the letter 0 or the digit? Sorry, letter O or digit 0. So I just copied it and I.
What is that site called? It's
called fillouttheform.net/0. O or 0 /. So I just copied it and it spat out 0. So it's a 0.
That made my day. I don't know why. Only you fucking find
we needed to figure it out. Why would we give the people wrong information?
Why would we on this program ever give the people incorrect information? Never would we do such a thing. Okay, we really got to get out of here. I got to put my
take that for data.
Take that for data. They're saying in the chat, Bill Bradley. I said Bill Bradley, right? Did I say Bill Bradley? Yeah, I said Bill Bradley. Okay. You're killing me here. All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, everybody out there for watching another episode of the show. We'll be back with more fun and games before you know it. Peace out.
Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See the Fanatics Sportsbook app.